If Gojo dies, what do you think will happen? Let's look at this for a second. Right now, the series and the characters within this really do hinge on Gojo's success. And I've talked about this briefly in streams and such, but I do want to put my thoughts and concerns into a full video here. So obviously by now, we've mostly all seen this fight and how it's going with Gojo and Sukuna. And right now, Gojo it's looking like he's in some serious trouble. It's not looking good out here. But we've seen this man recover from literally death and worse, and at this point he was far younger but far less experienced as a sorcerer compared to this version that we're seeing right now. And this version is apparently supposed to be the prime Gojo, a Gojo who is apparently the best the Jujutsu sorcerers have to offer in the fight against Sukuna. So first I'm going to look at Gojo's options should he survive, and then I'm going to look at the worst case scenarios should he lose. So let's just get into it. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe and all that good shit. Number one, right now Gojo has been cut by Malevolent Shrine, and the cut looks deep but not deep enough to take off the head, which is good. It's a good thing for us Gojo fans. As it stands right now, I would say Gojo has mere milliseconds to process what just happened and make a counter, and we know that Gojo can process information at incredible speeds and even act at incredible speeds. For example, the 0.2 second domain, and then him wiping out over 1,000 transfigured humans in Shibuya within 299 seconds. The dude can move fast, think fast, see fast, and even teleport, which we'll get into that one in a little minute. But knowing all of this information, I think it is very possible for him to counter this entire situation with one possible outcome, and that is Fallen Blossom Emotion. And it's a technique that we saw Naobito use against Dagon, and it's something that I've actually mentioned before. It's a firm believer that I think that Gojo does have this technique. It is a technique that uses one's own cursed energy as a counter attack to instant attack techniques when they are trapped within a domain. And it's something that we know about Gojo. He has a lot of cursed energy, and the usage for said cursed energy when he uses these techniques is almost infinitely close to zero. So off the back of this first cut, Gojo could use Fallen Blossom Emotion to counter the rest of these slices. And as we know, these cuts and cleaves and dismantles can be deflected, as we saw Maharaga deflect one of these slices. So it's very, very possible that Gojo with Fallen Blossom Emotion could use his own cursed energy to deflect these slices, at least up until Sukuna's domain runs out, fizzles out, and does its thing. Number two, Gojo could teleport outside of the range of Sukuna's domain, and as we already know, he is capable of using both long and short range teleportation to get in and out of places. However, it's whether he'll be quick enough to use this within the situation and how long it takes to activate. I don't know the exact timing of what it takes for him to use this. I would assume there's a similar sort of one hand seal for it. Then we have number three. Depending on how long these two have been fighting here, Utahime, Gakuganji, and Ichiji may actually appear and try to interfere in some way, shape, or form. How they do this, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it could be a team effort of some sort, with Utahime's technique buffing Ichiji's barrier, even if it's only for a short amount of time, with Gakuganji providing some sort of cover fire for them. Even if it's only for a second, it would also fit the narrative of Ichiji not wanting to let Gojo down and mention how he would literally die because Gojo believes in him. So there is also that possibility. Outside of these scenarios, I don't see another way Gojo can get out unless it is something unknown or possibly a different technique that Gojo's been hiding. Maybe even doing something similar to Kenjaku and trying some wild experimental technique to save himself in the same way Kenjaku turned his own body into a domain when he fought Yuki to survive the black hole. Or it could even be something very simple, which we have seen before, and it could be something similar to Hikari sacrificing the arm in a binding vow to survive this explosion of slices, basically. And we know Gojo's techniques all basically only require the one hand to activate these, so trading an arm probably wouldn't make a major difference to him. But this is where we get into the scary talk of the video here, and something I want to voice my concerns on, which I've talked about again, as I said at the beginning of the video. If Gojo dies within this next chapter, I truly think Gojo fans and Sukuna fans have genuinely all lost in this exact circumstance. If this is the case, I think they've all lost if this fight happens to end this quickly. And let me clarify and say that my original stance here, my theory of Gojo being the last man standing, that still holds, but given the events unfolding in front of me, unfortunately this may not be the case anymore. It may not be that those events actually come to pass, and if Gojo should fall here, I genuinely think it would be a waste of a fight personally, and I'll give you a few reasons why, starting with number one. If Gojo dies here, there is literally no one left in the verse to even challenge Sukuna. Sukuna's run run through everyone in this series has been wildly unopposed. The only time we've seen him getting wild in his fights here was in Shibuya against Jogo and the Maharaga. Outside of this, Sukuna has been left vastly unchecked, and no one in the series is even coming close, with the exception of Hana using Angel's technique, but we know that she's basically just harmless now. My point here is that Sukuna being the pinnacle of power and Gojo also being the pinnacle of power, this fight should be the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery and fights, and while we've seen so far it has been incredible, the domain clash and having that now clarified as to how an open barrier domain and a barrier domain would interact with each other is crazy. Knowing that these two were evenly matched and the only thing that separated the pair of them was Sukuna's range affecting the outside of Gojo's barrier is incredible, and it still feels like there is more to show from both sides, which is genuinely wild, which then brings me into point number 2. Sukuna has way more techniques, and we literally all know it right here, right now. He has Cleave and Dismantle, then he has the Unnamed Fire Arrow technique, the 10 Shadows technique, and there is probably more. There is a lot of mystery behind Sukuna, and we're all itching to find out and witness all of this. And out of all of the people within this series that have the potential to push Sukuna to those limits and have him pull out those techniques and show us and give us more, it would be Gojo. This fight has literally been teased and theorized by the fans for so fucking long. I mean, narratively within the series, it's literally been brought up once at the beginning of the series and then never ever again, basically. But right now this seems to be not the case at all, and the same goes for Gojo. This fight could potentially end within the next chapter, but in this series Gojo has shown us an incredible array of techniques and a massive amount of knowledge in Jujutsu sorcery as a whole, and it genuinely feels like it would be a waste should Sukuna kill this man within 2 chapters. My whole point here is that no matter which side of the fence you sit on, whether you're a Sukuna fan or a Gojo fan, if this fight ends within 2 chapters just like that, then we all lose, because all of those points that I've just provided will most likely never happen, and as a fan of the series, that genuinely makes me really fucking sad. And I've been talking a lot lately about letting Gege cook and letting the story play out as much as possible before making a judgment. However, I will genuinely be honest here, I think this might be the first ever negative video I've made towards the series of Jujutsu Kaisen. This chapter made me feel genuinely uneasy about the story of Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole, and as the ending that we may actually see. There is so much to wrap up and answer, and with the most recent examples being the month time skip, and then there's the possible Yuji technique, just to name those 2 off the top of my head. As a passionate fan of the series, it is genuinely really hard to ignore those looming factors, and I do try my best to remain positive. I'd like to think that within the community of Jujutsu Kaisen, I always try and look on the positive side of the story and draw from what we've had and what we've come through and how good the reminder and the past of the story has been. I've always said this from day one. I don't think we'll ever get a happy-go-lucky ending. I think narratively it just doesn't fit the story. However, I would be totally okay with the not so happy-go-lucky ending where it is just generally actually a miserable death. If everything got explained, I would be okay with that ending. But right now, it genuinely feels uncertain and feels like things will be left open-ended, and that concerns me. But that is everything from me. I just wanted to put my concerns into a quick video and see what you guys thought about this. Let me know what you guys think of these points. Are you concerned about Jujutsu's ending now that this fight might be over? I mean, the next chapter could come along and we could all be completely proven wrong. Gojo could pull out some crazy technique that we've never seen before, in which case the fight goes on and we get to see these 2 push the fucking limits, which is what we've all been itching to see. But if it doesn't, I don't really know how the story goes, and I don't know how anyone else in the series stands up to Sukuna. But that is everything from me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the video, and as always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, peace.